G'day Internet, welcome back to another video. The PlayStation 2. This arrived on the market in a time of my life where I was basically a hardcore LANing PC player. This whole generation basically passed me by. But I was out at the Green Shed the other week, and for those that don't know, the Green Shed is the recycling centre attached to our local tip here in Canberra. And this was sitting on its shelf with a controller and a bunch of cables. And I said to Pat, I said, how much for the PlayStation 2? He kind of looked at me, looked at it and went, 40 bucks. So for 40 bucks, how could I say no? And the PlayStation 2 is a console that I've never really put that much time into. And I thought, being 2023, some 20-ish years after it was released, I should probably check it out. Now, this particular one does work. I've been playing around with it over the last couple of weeks, but it is quite grubby, especially the controller. I'm surprised I haven't, caught any diseases or something from it yet. So step one is going to give all of this a thorough clean out. After that, we will have a bit of a play around with this, some nice and simple mods, but be aware this is not going to be some kind of how-to video. It's primarily going to be about the steps that I took to get where I ended up. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Anyway, let's get this thing into a million pieces and give it a good clean. So it's got a few scuffs and marks, and there's the usual kind of dusts within all the crevices. I think the first thing we can do is get Pat's kind of "this has been tested" sticker off here somehow. Wow. Well, that left behind a whole lot more adhesive than I was expecting, but the whole thing needs a scrub anyway. So I have the iFixit teardown guide up on my computer over there, and we should start by getting the little feet out, I believe is the first step. So I have my little plastic spudger, and that should get them out. That's the rubber ones. Can I get the plastic ones out? There we go. Right, and it looks like a whole bunch of Phillips head screws. Actually, you know what I should do? Jess gave me this the other day. How about we actually put the screws in a logical spot so I can work out how it all goes back together. Wow, these are in here good. What are the chances I'll remember where the long ones go and the short ones don't? Come on. What did I miss? I missed a screw because I'm an idiot. All right. And that's it. Next, controller port. How do you plug in? Or do I just leave you? I think I just leave you loose. Fan. Is there another one? No. It's the fan loose. This should pop out. Kind of. Right, got it. There's a screw there. I don't know what it does, but it's coming out. Instructions say to flip it over and remove the bottom base. Oh, okay, that was really easy. And then the power board. Nearly lost a screw. And up here is a series of 4 pins that actually come up from the main board So you've got to kind of carefully work it off those pins. There we go. Put that to one side. Does that fan want to come out? Oh, hang on. I was never going to get that fan out because the wire is like that short. Don't want to ruin it. That comes out. A bit of plastic. Instructions say now the fan comes out. Okay. Ah, right. I getcha. Is a wee little plug. Got it. What? Okay, that's out. Right. Now the rest of the screws. I suspect that the iFixit teardown is a slightly different version than this, because it's not coming apart the way it says it should. Okay, it seems the next thing to come out are these cables here, which should be all kinds of fun to get back in. I should be able to lift the DVD drive out of the way. It's broken. I don't think I did that. And you're going to come out? Yeah, that's actually broken there. I don't think I did that, but I should be able to glue it back together. Now, I warn you, I am hereby going off script. This could all end in tragedy. I'm going with the tried and true method of just remove screws until it falls to pieces. There we go. That's the top shield off. Thermal pad seems to be in pretty good condition, so that's nice. How does that come out? Okay, it's a lifty one. Right, and finally, I've got that controller port off. We seem to have two more tiny screws here. And I think that's the last thing. Hey! Right. One disassembled PlayStation 2 fat that I'm still not convinced I'm going to be able to put back together. Okay, plan of attack. Plastics, wash. Metal bits, I wipe over with some spray and wipe and a cloth. The main board is actually in pretty good nick. I just want to get into all the ports with a tiny brush. This will get the tiny brush treatment as well. Optical drive, I'm going to work out, I need to work out how much I can disassemble it so I can try and fix that crack and then pin it. It's got some dust in it as well, but internally it doesn't actually look too bad, but I'm probably going to have to pull this apart further. Fan also gets a brushing. Right, I'm going to go to the bathroom and scrub all the plastics, and I'll be back momentarily. All right, let's see if we can work out how this optical drive comes apart. I see a couple of screws. Does that just lift off? There's a clip here. Ah, okay. The bit I'm concerned about is here. That should give me enough clearance to be able to glue that back together. Let's get at least some of this dust out. And let's get some super glue into that crack. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Gorilla Grip and just hold the crack open and try and get a little bit in there. Doesn't need the whole lot, just a few select dots and hold it closed for a few seconds. I might need to clamp this. All right, let's let that dry for a while. While we've got the brush out, let's see how much I can get out of some of these controller ports and stuff like that. The fan. Now I'm not going to replace this fan because it's actually not particularly noisy or anything, so there's no point in replacing it. Making a good mess. Most of these metals are actually remarkably clean, and they really just need a brush down to get rid of some of the loose dust. That's kind of it. Now, this is nothing fancy. It is purely a painter's brush, a natural fibers painter's brush, but with it kind of trimmed down to a point, I found it to be basically my favorite detailing brush. No idea why, just is. So given the plastics are still drying, let's take a look at this. We've got a bunch of screws. If I can get a screwdriver in there. There we go. That last screw does not want to come out. Okay. Let's see what horrors await. Right. Can I get that screw out? We have our nice ring of human slime the whole way around, and in the rear buttons as well. Yay. That's disgusting. I'm assuming these buttons come out. Okay, PCB seems to have just a single screw. And does that all... Okay, that all just fell apart. So this bit is actually in pretty reasonable condition. All of kind of this, maybe not that, makes me physically ill. This is simply just going to go and soak. All right, having it all kind of nice and pretty is one thing, but the question is, did I kill it? Here goes nothing. It seems to be alive. Is the menu meant to be shifted over like that? Anyway, I have a copy here of Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Let's see if the optical drive is still working. It's making noises. Gotta love optical drive load times. It seems to be happy. Awesome. Well, now that it's working, there's one thing that I really do want to fix, and I 3D printed some stands. All the 3D printed stuff in this video, I'll put links in the description. But, because I always kind of liked the PS2 sitting upright, and you can just kind of like stand it up, but I don't know. I think it looks better with some feet. I think that actually looks pretty good. Now, on my way home from the Green Shed when I bought this thing, I did cruise past my local CEX and did buy a bunch of games. I picked up Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Lemmings, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, GT3, Crazy Taxi, NBA 2K11. They were still making NBA 2K games all the way through to 2011 for the PS2, righto, and MotoGP, and I did start having a bit of a play with these, but stand, maybe I need to make a game stand too, that'll do. But when I was in CEX, I got talking to the kid behind the counter, and he said, oh yeah, I've got one and I've modded it and all the rest of it, and I went, oh yeah, there's a thing called Free McBoot for these, isn't there? And he went, yeah, it's really great and it's really easy and all the rest of it. So literally between CEX and the car, I jumped on Amazon and I bought some things. The first thing I did was buy a free McBoot memory card. I'm assuming these are just cheap knockoff cards with free McBoot loaded on it. Yes, you can make your own, but for 20 bucks and I had it in 2 days, I'll just buy one. The other thing I bought was the hard drive control. Now this one's branded GameStar, but far as I can tell, they're all the same. And they're sold as a network interface and SATA adapter. The network doesn't work. I've even just left the sticker on there. I don't know how they get away with calling these network adapters when the network side of it doesn't work. But that allows me to put a SATA hard drive in. I then went and got a 1 terabyte SATA SSD. This is a 3D bracket attached to it, and that essentially stops it wobbling around inside the PS2. I'll show you that in a minute. And this is pretty much enough to be able to load software on a reasonable hard drive, game backups, and get you off and running. Now, like I said at the beginning, this isn't a how-to, but the short version is free McBoot. I used HD Loader to format the drive. I then used a cheap little USB to SATA adapter to plug the hard drive into my PC. So with all the software kind of taken care of, all I really then needed to do was pop the back cover off. That can go away. Take the hard drive with its little bracket, plug it into the hard drive adapter, and this just slides in the back. Done. Take our free McBoot, put it into slot 2. Now, quick one, make sure you put it into slot 2 and not slot 1. I actually had GT4 decide to go, that's a weird looking memory card in slot 1. Let me format that for you. So I now have another 64 meg card that used to be a free McBoot card with a nice little message on it. And this is now just a normal memory card, and so that can go in there. But with all this done, I should be able to just power it up. Assuming there's no disk in there. There's no disk in there. Free McBoot. And here it is. And I just need to go to, let's just use the latest one. This is OpenPS2 Loader, which is kind of, I think, the modern version of HD Loader, which people used to use. I think that's how it works. And here's all our games. What can I say? It's even loading the artwork a little slowly, but it's working. So if I want to, Gran Turismo 4, one of the best. Now, I've only got like a dozen games on this, but they're the games I wanted to play instead of just like putting the entire library on it. But I mean, I've seen people put like 12 terabyte drives in these things and literally just put the entire library on there, which I guess is cool, but I would then end up in a position of going, what do I want to play? There's so many to choose from. I don't know what to do. So this way I only copy games across that I actually want to check out. So other than my need to kind of give this thing an entire clean, the free memory card on Amazon was about 20 bucks. I think the hard drive adapter was about 30, and this is Australian dollars. And then the SSD I already had, but you can pick them up from, depending on what size you want, you know, anywhere from about $40 onwards. So it's actually pretty cheap as well. And if you're at all curious, I've simply got this running through a cheap set of Amazon component cables into this little television. Like I said, they're just a cheap pair, but I mean, they work and it's better than composite. And I have actually played around with running this through both my OSSC and my RetroTink 2. And honestly, the best image I've gotten out of this is just to find a television with native component support. It's as simple as that. I've gotten the best picture from this television, or my bigger one, which is just kind of over there, just running component straight into it. So if you're at all curious if you can do the same with a PS2 Slim, you can. You just simply do it via a USB. So this is a, I think, 512 gig USB SSD. The load times are slower because this is only USB 1.1, but it does work. And as a quick little tip on your FreeMate boot card, update the version of OPL to the latest beta, which I think is 1.2 point something, because it supports exFAT, which means that on your USB hard drive or whatever, you're not limited to the 4 gig file size, because a lot of games are bigger than 4 gig. So there's a little tip for you, and this works great. And again, I made a little stand for it. And even then customize the stand to take this little hard drive and route the cable through the bottom. I gotta be honest, I'm actually quite pleased with this little one. It turned out really nice. So there you go, my first steps into the world of PS2. And what do I think about it? Well, I can absolutely hand on heart say that there are some amazing games on this system that I really need to find the time to check out. Look, I will always probably be an Xbox guy at heart. I absolutely adore the original Xbox, but I think I can certainly make room in my life for the PlayStation 2. Now, funny little story. The title of this video is likely to be something along the lines of I bought my first PS2 in 2023, which is technically correct. This is the only PS2 that I've bought in 2023. The funny side of that is that when I bought this, I bought it with the thought in the back of my head that I've never owned a PS2 before. Do you see that slim? It didn't just appear. Well, it sort of did. I was literally digging through a box looking for something for this project and for this PlayStation 2. And in the bottom of it was a PS2 Slim. I'd obviously bought one at some point or got given it or whatever, and it just ended up at the bottom of a box. I mean, you can't really blame me. Look at it. It's tiny. It's easy to lose. So yeah, it turns out that I actually owned a PS2 this entire time. Just completely forgot about it. But I hope you enjoyed the video regardless. If you did, like, subscribe, all the usual YouTubey stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.